So we are sampling tea perfumes today, everybody. I have 5 samples from Lucky Scent that I have recently purchased. I have 4 of them on blotters. I have 2 of them on my skin, and I also have 2 bottles of perfume that are longtime favorites of mine that are tea perfumes that I'm going to talk to you about at the end of this video. So I am a tea drinker. I have my jasmine green tea here with me that I drink every single morning. Now, I don't typically drink it in this cute little teacup. I just have it in this pretty teacup for this video. The reality is I drink it in this giant hydro flask because I like to have it be piping hot and I drink a lot of it. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into these perfumes. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Brandt London Fog. I actually have this one on my skin. I've got it over here, and I also have it on this paper strip. And as the name suggests, the notes of this perfume are supposed to be reminiscent of the drink London Fog. Now, if you're not familiar with what a London Fog is, this is Earl Grey tea with steamed milk and vanilla extract. And then depending upon your taste, you can add sugar to it. So in this perfume, of course, those notes are listed. There are also notes of sandalwood, lavender, white musk, ambergris, a smoky accord. They do have whipped honey listed in there, so that's that sugary note. And they do specifically list bergamot. And many of you probably know that Earl Grey tea is black tea with the bergamot essence in it. Now, when this perfume opens, there is quite a strong blast of bergamot. It is quite clear, it's very radiant, and it definitely leans into the more masculine cologne territory. Now, I am definitely not one to gender perfumes or fragrances, but if you are familiar with the marketing of colognes, especially back in the 80s and the 90s, you know what I'm talking about in terms of a more masculine leaning bergamot type of cologne. For me, that opening bergamot definitely leans into that territory. But in my opinion, the foundation of this perfume is a vanillic, lactonic sandalwood perfume, and that foundation is laid right away. So even though you smell that bergamot opening, you definitely get a sense of the sandalwood, the vanilla, and that milky quality shining through right away. Now, I do not get any black tea from this perfume. I don't get that smoky accord that they mention in the notes. So ultimately, the perfume is a disappointment for me. Now, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily disappointed in this perfume because I don't get smokiness from it, even though it is listed in the notes, but I am disappointed by not getting any of the black tea notes that I was really hoping for from this perfume. So if I wanted to get a sandalwood, lactonic, vanillic perfume, then I would definitely be reaching for this perfume. I think in the dry down, it is quite lovely, and I think it is a really nice vanillic woody type of perfume with the opening being quite strong on the bergamot, but that's not what I was looking for from this perfume. I really wanted a London Fog perfume with more of a tea type of experience and less so of a vanillic woody type of perfume. So ultimately, unfortunately, this perfume was disappointing for me. Let's go ahead and move into one of the samples that I really did enjoy and was very satisfied by, and that is Jasmine Tea by One Day. And this truly is a gorgeous perfume that really does a great job of merging the florals with the tannins of the tea. So this has jasmine in it, clary sage, tea leaf, oolong tea extract, vetiver, and musk. And right out of the gate, you really do get a very blooming, luscious jasmine. And it is quite heady. And I'm pretty sure it's jasmine sambac because jasmine sambac is the jasmine that they do use in teas. And I've got it here on my arm. And when I smell it, it has that warm kind of resinous, indolic nature that jasmine sambac has. And I personally love jasmine sambac. So I am truly intoxicated by the opening of this perfume. Like I said, just right out of the gate, you get that sumptuous, really beautiful jasmine experience. But it also has a tannic bite to it. You do get a sense of that bitterness of the tea. So I really like that duality of this perfume. And I appreciate that you don't have to wait for the bitterness of the tannins to show through. And I like how the two play together. So you've got that lushness of the jasmine with a hint of the bitterness of the tannins. And what that does as the perfume develops is you've got this opulence and lushness of the jasmine sambac blossom, but yet the tannins kind of ground the perfume as well as enhancing the richness of the blossoms, but kind of in this structured way. So it's not this wild tangle of jasmine blossoms that's just completely out of control and overwhelming you. So I would say if you're looking for a true jasmine green tea perfume, this is definitely one to check out. So unlike London Fog, where I was really looking for that black tea note to come through, I really feel like I get that from Jasmine Tea. You feel like you've got that tea shop aura around you, so it's very, very satisfying if you are looking for a tea perfume. Now, I did try another tea perfume from One Day. I tried their Osmanthus tea, and unfortunately, this one was a little bit disappointing for me. So the notes in this perfume are Osmanthus, jasmine, tea, and vetiver. So a little bit on the simple side. And I've got this one on paper. And for me on the skin, I did try this one on the skin only one time, and it was a little bit too fruity for me and a little bit too sweet. And I do appreciate the fruitiness of Osmanthus. I love that fleshy apricot nature of the Osmanthus blossom. But for me, this one is just too fruity, too sweet. It just feels kind of generic in a way to me. There was nothing super special about it. And on paper, unfortunately, I'm kind of getting the same experience as well. I'm not getting a tea note in this one, and I'm actually not getting much vetiver either. So Osmanthus tea from One Day is falling a little bit flat for me. The tea is not shining through for me in this. And I am a huge Osmanthus lover, and the Osmanthus in here really is just not doing it for me. Again, it's just a little too sweet, a little bit too on the fruity side. So unfortunately, Osmanthus tea from One Day is disappointing for me. Now we're gonna move into a couple of perfumes from Chasing Scent. I was super excited to try these. Let's talk about Rain Tea first. And this perfume has a really interesting list of notes. I've worn this several times on my skin. I've got it on paper here. This has chrysanthemum and wattle. And what's interesting about wattle is mimosa. And if you watched my previous video where I talked about my favorite mimosa scents, you will know that when I talked about mimosa, I mentioned that mimosa in perfumery is actually Acacia dilbata. So Acacia dilbata is also known as wattle in Australia. So it's interesting that they list this note as wattle. I wonder if this is an Australian brand. I'll have to look into that. But anyway, so wattle / Acacia dilbata / mimosa. There's also chamomile in here, white tea, rain, barley, honey, and then a fruit called longan. So my experience of this perfume is an interesting combination of honeyed sweetness, definitely some of that mimosa blossom, but also a very intense dried chamomile, chrysanthemum petal, kind of wildflower meadow energy that you would get in late August. You've got dried petals of chamomile and chrysanthemum kind of crunching under your feet. So it's like a blend of the white tea with the chamomile and the chrysanthemum all being brewed together with some mimosa blossoms and lots of dripping honey. This perfume is incredibly sweet. So if you don't like honey, if you don't like sweet perfumes, you probably will not like this perfume. But the good thing about this perfume is they call it Rain Tea, and you definitely get the sense of the tea. The white tea note in here is very present. It's almost like the tea has been oversteeped. It's very, very rich and very, very tannic. Now, the only thing though that I feel like is misleading about this perfume is I don't get the rain quality in here. I don't get a sense of petrichor or rain or any wateriness about it. To me, it's all about that heavily steeped tea with lots of honey, and you get that sense of, like I said, the dried flowers in here of chamomile and chrysanthemum. So if that sounds good to you, I would definitely check out this perfume. For me, it gets a little heavy-handed. I don't think this is a perfume that I would want to spray onto my skin liberally. I would only want to dab it a little bit and not that frequently. So I'm very happy to have my sample. I think it's a perfume that I would only want to reach for every once in a while. So I definitely do not see myself purchasing a full bottle. Now let's go ahead and move on to Chasing Scent's tea service. Now this has jasmine, oolong tea, osmanthus absolute, goji berry, white peach, and delicate musks in it. Now for me, this is quite similar to One Day's Jasmine Tea, except for the oolong note is on steroids. Like I was saying in Chasing Scents Rain Tea, how the white tea note is like a very, very over-steeped tea. Kind of the same thing with tea service. The oolong tea is very much like an oversteeped tea, so very, very tannic. So it's almost like a cup of tea that's been oversteeped to the point where you wouldn't necessarily enjoy drinking it. And then you've got that blend of the jasmine and the osmanthus, but I would definitely say that jasmine wants to edge out the osmanthus. But I almost feel like there's a possibility that there might be some jasmine grandiflorum in here. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but it kind of has that more juicy, heady quality that jasmine grandiflorum has, more so than jasmine sambac. I mean, I definitely think there's jasmine sambac in here for sure, but there's something about this that either speaks a little bit of the jasmine grandiflorum language, maybe jasmine officinal, I'm not totally sure. But anyway, it seems like there's something else going on here in the jasmine world. But between the two, I definitely prefer the jasmine tea from One Day. This one is just a little too intense when it comes to the tannins in here. It's almost like the tea is a little bit too much for me, even though I really do want a tea type of fragrance. That is what I've been wanting here in terms of exploring these different tea perfumes. This one is almost a little bit too overboard for me. So what I would say about this perfume is I really do enjoy it, but it's almost that type of perfume that I want to enjoy on someone else, not necessarily on my skin. But I am happy to have the sample. I do think I will put it on my skin every once in a while, similarly to Rain Tea by Chasing Scent, but I don't think it's gonna be something that I am going to be purchasing a full bottle of. All right, so now we're gonna move into the perfumes that I have in my collection. These are obviously not samples. These are old favorites of mine. This is Bulgari's Eau The Vert, so this is their green tea perfume. And the perfumer behind this is Jean-Claude Elena. And I mentioned him in my Mimosa perfume video because he is the nose behind Kelly Kalesh. And it's interesting because even though this green tea perfume and Kelly Kalesh are quite different, there are some similarities, but let's go ahead and dive into this perfume and then I'll talk about why I think they're kind of similar. So the top notes of this perfume are bergamot, cardamom, and orange blossom. In the middle are jasmine, lily of the valley, and rose. And then the base notes are green tea, cedar, amber, sandalwood, and musk. And the reason why I think this perfume is very similar to Kelly Kalesh is because Jean-Claude Elena does such a beautiful job of blending all of the notes in a formula in such a cohesive way and allowing just a few of them to stand out. So in Kelly Kalesh, for me, that's mimosa and leather. And in this one, obviously, it's the green tea. This is truly a classic green tea perfume. And I just sprayed a little bit on my hand here. And while the notes blend so beautifully together, you actually do get a sense of that bergamot, cardamom, and orange blossom playing together so beautifully in the opening. It's really incredibly lovely and so well done. And as I was saying, this perfume is so beautifully constructed and the notes are so cohesively blended together that there's not one floral that is fighting to have the starring role. So there's jasmine, lily of the valley, and rose in the heart, but you really don't get a sense of just one of them shining through. It's like they're just moving in concert so beautifully together. But once you get to the dry down, the green tea really is quite radiant, along with a little bit of a cedar soapiness. And I think that's what lends itself to kind of this green spa type of vibe that is really relaxing and kind of gives a restorative type of feeling. So if you are a green tea perfume lover and you have not yet experienced Bulgari's green tea perfume, highly, highly recommend. So finally, I'm going to end on one of my favorite perfumes of all time. This is Osmanthus Yunnan by Hermes. This is in their Hermescence line. And can you guess who the nose is behind this perfume? It is Jean-Claude Elena. I definitely have a theme of loving a lot of his perfumes. So the notes in here are top notes of tea and orange, osmanthus and freesia in the middle, and leather at the bottom. I also really love leather perfumes. So when I went to Fragrantica to look up the notes of this perfume, the very first review of this perfume caught my eye, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due, and I'm going to tell you the name of the person who left this review because his name is on the Fragrantica website. So hopefully he doesn't mind me telling you his name, but This review is from Jeff Shin, and again, this is on Fragrantica, and he said that Osmanthus Yunnan is like iced Osmanthus tea carried out on an antique leather tray. And I just felt like that was an incredible visual, and especially the fact that he specified that it's iced Osmanthus tea, because there is something about this perfume that is evocative of wearing it on a summer day, like you're at a summer party and you are drinking iced tea, specifically the iced Osmanthus tea, and you have that scent of leather around you. And also the fact that he said it's an antique leather tray, so it's aged. It's not like you're walking into a saddle shop that has brand new leather that's going to be super intensely reeking of leather and it's very strong and overwhelming. He's specifying here that it's antique leather, so it's a little bit more subdued on the leathery side. So again, not super overwhelming on the leather. And he also mentioned in his review that it's ethereal and meditative, and I completely agree with that as well. So he successfully painted the picture of this perfume. He took the words right out of my mouth, and I actually loved reading his review because I was so thrilled to read a review from somebody who loves this perfume as much as I do. Now, what I want to talk about in this perfume is the freesia. So clearly this has osmanthus in it. The osmanthus is really, really beautiful. There's also the tea note in here. I do get tea from this perfume, or else I would not have put it into this video. So yes, I really do feel like there is a lovely tea note in here. The osmanthus is gorgeous, and I love that the leathery aspect of osmanthus is also heightened in here. But the freesia in here is also quite gorgeous. Freesia note in here has this beautiful humming quality to it. It's almost a little bit crisp, and it interplays off of the osmanthus in a really beautiful way. So the osmanthus note is more lush. It kind of reminds you of apricot. It has that leathery aspect to it. So it interplays really nicely with the freesia. So not to sound repetitive, but this is another one of those well-constructed perfumes where the notes blend in beautifully together and create this whole experience that, like Jeff Shin said, is ethereal and meditative. And if you like osmanthus, if you like freesia, I highly, highly recommend Osmanthus Yunnan. So out of my tea sampler, of the 5 samples that I got, the One Day Jasmine Tea was definitely the big winner. I love how they blended the jasmine with the oolong tea note. What I have found from this sampling is either the tea note is non-existent or that the tea note is a little bit overbearing. And I feel like with the One Day Jasmine Tea, there's a really, really nice balance of the two. And if you have not yet experienced the Bulgari Green Tea perfume or the Hermes Osmanthus Yunnan, I just cannot recommend these two enough. I feel like they are beautiful classics in the tea perfume realm, and I highly, highly recommend. And please do let me know what your favorite tea perfumes are down below in the comments, whether or not they are vintage perfumes, contemporary perfumes, brand new releases. Let me know down below what you are enjoying in the tea perfume realm. And if you like the video, please do give me a thumbs up. And if you have not yet subscribed, I would appreciate your support since this is a new channel. And I will see you soon.